All right, so I did my live stream where I talked about the Philadelphia 76ers, gave my opinion on whether or not they should give James Harden an extension, max contract. I said no to that. I talked about Doc Rivers. I said I was going to do a follow-up video what I think they should do with Doc Rivers, which is what I'm going to talk about right here. But yeah, for those that didn't check out that live stream, you click the icon in the top right-hand corner. You can check out that live stream for yourself. Want to see it? Yeah, so yeah, you can definitely check that out. And so what I'm also going to talk about right here, though, is as across Doc Rivers, what I think they should do. Now, apparently, Daryl Morey has started coming out saying that Doc Rivers will be back as the head coach for next year. I personally don't agree with it. I don't think he should be back. But then again, at the same time, I can't. The more I think about it, who's really out there that's a viable candidate for the Sixers to get? I personally think out of all the candidates out there, there's only one viable candidate there, Mark Jackson. Now, based off what Daryl Morey said about Doc Rivers, obviously it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And not to mention, looks like last we heard Mark Jackson's in talk with the Lakers about filling their head coaching vacancy. So obviously, Mark Jackson has a lot of credibility as a coach. He was there with the Golden State Warriors during that time with Steph and Draymond, those guys during their early portion of their run. So obviously he's a credible candidate, but I look at all the possible candidates out there and I was looking around, I was searching around them. I found, of course, Mark Jackson, who I think is the most credible right there, especially his work with those guys right there. I mean, then I look at, you got Jeff Van Gundy, though. I mean, granted, Jeff Van Gundy had a good run as a coach with the Houston Rockets in the mid 2000s, but then again, he hasn't coached in a long time. Jeff Van Gundy. So I just get a feeling if he were to come back, he might be past his peak right there. So I don't think that would be a good option for the Sixers because he's been away from coaching for a while. So he could probably come back with a dated mentality, a dated coaching style. So if that's going good right there, I still think Mark Jackson because, he was recently working with a team that he was recently the one that worked recently out of the main candidates. And out of those main candidates worked out on what am I looking to say? He worked out with the Warriors and those guys early in their run. So he was working with championship team more recently. So I think out of all those guys available, himself, Karl, the former Rocket, George Karl, and all those guys. Mike Malone. I don't see those guys being viable options like the George Karls, Mike Malones, Jeff Van Gundy, because it's been a while since they've been in, since they've coached, and they could be bringing a dated mindset to coaching. So I don't think that's necessarily the best idea because we see that a lot in sports when old faces come back after being away from coaching for years. It usually doesn't pan out that well. I mean, you can take a look at the NFL. Now, obviously, that's a different sport. Well, the point I'm getting is usually when you bring back an old face that hasn't coached in a while, it usually doesn't work out that well. Like, you remember the Raiders, like with years ago with Art Shell? Remember? He was a coach for the Raiders in the 90s, right? They had an 8-8 season. They fired him after it. Al Davis later said he thinks it was a mistake. Then he rehired him in 2006, years later, and they panned out terribly. They went 2-14. He was fired quickly. Remember, they brought back John Gruden, how that worked out. And not to mention, John Gruden got exposed. Basically, he got his true self exposed. So how did that work out right there? Yeah, but the point being is usually bringing back old faces after years usually doesn't work out. Now, the only time it ever really truly worked out was when the Rams, when they're still in St. Louis, brought in Dick Vermeil. That's the only time I really think that's the only time I recall that a coach after years of being away really worked out. And I feel like in any sports, the same philosophy, because sports always evolve over time. And I feel like in this case, I don't really think it's the smartest thing to try to go for a guy like a Jeff Van Gundy if the Sixers were to actually do that, but it doesn't look like they're doing that. But the point being is, though, based off history of coaches who come back to their sport and coach, years after their peak, usually it doesn't work out well. I just don't think that would be the smartest route to go. I think Mark Jackson's the smartest route to go because of all the coaches available. If the Sixers were to actually go that route, if something were to happen and they were to fire Doc Rivers and they decided, let's try to make an offer to Mark Jackson, get him in, of all the coaching candidates on the market, he's the one that has the most recent experience with a championship caliber team. So his philosophies are much closer to, modern day than some of these other guys. So that's if the Sixers were to actually fire Doc Rivers. I think really the best option is Mark Jackson. But then again, because he's really the best option, I think that's why Daryl Morey wants to hold on to Doc for another year, because there's really not that many candidates out there that could really help elevate this team to the next level. There's not that many candidates you look at and go, oh, this could be the coach that could get the Sixers over the hump. This could be the team that could make them better. There's not that many out there. So that's possibly, I think, part of the reason why it looks like he's coming back next year. So even though I'm disappointed about that, I don't like Doc as a coach. I do understand it to an extent. And I think if they were to make a move, Mark Jackson would be the guy to go with as Doc's replacement. If they were to make a move now. So that's my opinion right there. But you guys let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think the Sixers should fire Doc Rivers and try to go for Mark Jackson? Do you think they should try to fire Doc Rivers and go for someone else? And if you think they should extend him for another year, please feel free to comment. Let me know why you feel that way in the comment section. Also, drop a like to help out the algorithm. Subscribe if you're new. Also, feel free to share this as well. Most of all, everyone watching, have a wonderful day or night. Snicky Steve signing off, and I'll see you next time.